All right, guys, highly requested. So we're going to be doing the trade recap today from SPY. Mind you, it wasn't anything super crazy. I didn't get like a 5,000% win. It was only about like 30 or something like that. But these are very fundamental aspects I want you guys to be able to identify and understand why they're happening. Also, apologize for my voice. I don't know why. Every time around this year, like September, October, I get hit hard with a vid. It's like 3 times in a row now, so please bear with me. But yeah, this was one of the only trades I took today. Bought some time on it, unfortunately. It would have been a bigger win, but I got 444 calls at 121. I just identified the risk, which was low a day. Noted either a small loss or we hold back to 442, which was actually a 1 minute fair value gap that I spotted, which was target one. And then we were looking for fair value gap, the bigger fair value gap at 442.50, right? Really nice trade. Like I said, a fundamental trade and just being able to identify price as it's happening. So yeah, let's jump in. So previous day high was here. I always mark these in purple, previous day high or low or purple, right? So what we ended up happening off the bat was a drawdown to 441.97, right? That's our initial 5 minute low or a 5 minute opening low. Or this is actually a 15, sorry. So that's our 15 minute warp low. But market ends up kind of pushing out, right? Sells down. And I want you guys to kind of know what happens, right? It comes down, hits our previous day level, bounces as it should, okay? Hits again, right? Bounces as it should, right? Starts to sit here. And a lot of people probably would have gotten stopped here, but it drew under just a little bit, drew some blood, but then it starts to chop, right? And a lot of people don't train their brains to understand what this is. This isn't just chop, guys. This is liquidity that's being built at a very key level, right? There's probably bidders sitting here, and that is notable by these long wicks here, right? The bodies are closing where they should, right around the previous day level, but then we have the wicks here, right? So they are taking stabs a little bit lower, but we definitely have buyers sitting here. Now, it's probably tied into the bodies of this close here, so right around there, right? So they're probably just setting a bid somewhere in this range and just buying shares here, right? Whatever they need to do. But we need to understand that this whole zone right here, right, is liquidity, right? So if the market ends up not being able to press out higher, right, and let's say they lose some steam, where are they going to draw to? Right? And just answer that yourselves. They're probably going to draw back down to these bids, reload, and then go, right? So we got to have this marked and understand that this isn't just quote unquote chop or boring price action. This is liquidity that's being built up. This happens on every time frame. Okay, so what we end up getting from this liquidity here is a push out. Okay, we end up getting pressed out. We start to move up, right? And then we hit this top. Everybody, I guess, should be looking maybe double top. It's not coming off of a level. I would have thought it would have came off 443.90 or 444, but you got to start trying to see stuff before it actually happens. Volume's pretty low. That's a pretty harsh wick on the 15. So I'm thinking double top, right? Maybe sell back down, and I'm starting to look for maybe like an inverse head and shoulders. Okay, I wouldn't put all my money on that just because yeah, it's silly. But I mean, if you look, right, this high that was respected here was the orb low, right? It's also kind of like the equilibrium or the midpoint of the entire trading range. If we just draw our fibs, right, the blue line right here, 0.5, 442. So that's a big spot, okay? And I'm looking for this to potentially be like the left shoulder. And what ends up happening, right? Can't go higher. What's it going to do? Right? People think the right shoulder is going to kind of happen here. What does it do? Milks them, right? Now, what does it draw to and where does it stop? This should be very interesting for a lot of you guys. It draws straight to liquidity where all these bidders are at. It's respecting our previous day range, right? And then what does it do? Right? Starts to consolidate. These are orders being built here. Now, I'm going to rewind just 1 second because this is actually where I started to take my trade. So now, though, we understand. I'm going to get rid of this, okay, so you guys understand. This is liquidity here. We're going to get rid of this lower wick here. We'll actually just draw the low a day because this was my risk here. We'll just make it red so you guys understand. Red was my risk. Now, remember, this was the right shoulder that a lot of people were looking at. It melted through really quickly. Look at the volume, though, right? Volume, usually it's not, you want it to see it be like an increase in volume. This is an increase, but it's nothing drastic, right? And then look at how harsh these candles moved into our liquidity. This should be like a red flag, right? Not necessarily a red flag, but Look how easily it got mitigated too as it hit the bottom, right? This high volume candle, a lot of that also came from that wick that was being developed. So once again, draw to liquidity, bidders are still bidding this spot, and we have a fair value gap, right? So fair value gap here, we'll go ahead and just mark that. And we can actually investigate it just a little bit further. You guys can see what we were looking at. You guys see how quickly this pushed down, right? Especially this bar. One second. Especially this bar, right? Especially the one that stopped out anybody trying to trade that shoulder. There's a reason that this pushed through so quickly, right? It's probably going to push back and collect any stops that were sitting here or any orders that may have been missed. But yeah, I mean, there was a clear fair value gap on the 15, on the 5, right? And then I want you guys to know this really quickly. Look at the 1 and how harsh that bar was. That stopped a lot of these guys out at that orb high, the right shoulder, etc. Just a 1 bar melt, right? Just so fast. Now what we do is we understand that this immediate bounce kind of filled that fair value gap initially. So how we draw it, sorry guys, I'm so sorry. How we draw it like this. There we go. We'll extend these out a little bit. And then this is what I had. Boom, boom, right? Now this is our fair value gap that we're looking to target into. Now, it really depended on how you wanted to trade this. I had mine being risk low of day, right? So I got in I think I got in somewhere on this bar. My risk was so minimal though. It was like right here. We'll just call it that. And then we were targeting just here, right? So pretty good R trade, R multiples. What was it? It was like 5, yeah, something crazy. We were just looking to trade it to the 442 level, right? And then maybe trade it back up to this fair value gap on the 15. But we identified 2 fair value gaps. Risk was pretty easy as well. If you guys want to look at the alert, like I said, I got in 1117. So if we go to a 15, this is, yeah, basically right when I entered, right? You guys can see this bar caught here with these bids. You guys can see, right, the spread on these candles is not that significant, especially after a bar this harsh. You would expect an uptick in volume, whereas volume, like I noted, was pretty weak, right? We had a divergence in price and volume at the lows here. You know, this was mitigated very, very nicely. Spread shrunk, right? And it really just looked like either seller exhaustion, which I don't think it was. I think it was just a move down to get more fills, right? I don't necessarily know if this was an order block, but it was very, very sus, right? But that move down was easily mitigated, and we instantly saw buyers holding this level again, and it just consolidated. Now I took entry here on the second 15-minute bar right at 11:17. If we press play, you guys will see, right, instantly pushed up, right, up into our spot. I think this is where I took a good amount of trims on here. Filled the 1-minute fair value gap. You guys can see the wick there. So we're tagged out, right? So I was tagged. I was out of that trade. But then I want you guys to note something, right? Ends up pushing up even further, right? Ends up pushing up to our 15-minute fair value gap, and it actually gave a secondary entry. I want you guys to note where that pullback came from. Where did that come down to? Pulled down and basically tagged one more time, right? 441.41, which was the start of the fair value gap, right? It was very, very close to a retest of this previous day level as well. Volume was really nice for a 15-minute sort of hammer here, and then we ended up seeing the progression and actually fill right through the fair value gap. And this is where sometimes you can get those squeeze outs, especially with people that don't understand that these are imbalances, right? And that these are actually bids that are being filled here, right? It's just rewashing shares, right? Or whatever it is. That's why I say it's really important to just identify these zones and see, I always say it, see the forest for way more than just the trees, right? It's just not chop. It's not just consolidation. It's orders and liquidity that's being built, right? And if you lose steam or whatever the case may be, right, it'll trade back to these zones and just kind of refill, if you will. That's how you should probably start looking at these. But yeah, just a really, really nice trade, very fundamental. Like I said, wasn't a huge win. It was about like 25-30%. Had I gone into 0DTE, absolutely would have been a crazy one. Or if I'd done SPX, maybe on this pullback here, that would have been a crazy trade. But it's a Monday. I'm not feeling good. So hopefully this helped out, guys, just in identification. Typically, I'll just go ahead and note this. Since we're kind of in an uptrend a little bit, we're starting to develop one. Typically, I would have faded this right? So I would have stayed patient on the move back up, right? And then probably have gone short here for a move back down that was completely valid, and it actually did work, right? This actually did kind of work where it hit the fair value gap just a little bit off, and it sold back down. But once you, I mean, this kind of comes into evaluating price as is, right? And just being able to change on the fly. The fact that this pushed down and held here, right? These buyers, I think, fulfilled their order, right? And this might have been an order block, like I said. I'll need to go back and look, but yeah, really, really weird timing on this. Also, too, I never take credit for anything like this. If you guys, I would highly recommend just go give him the views. This guy absolutely deserves it. But I have taken a few things from ICT, and the timing on this was impeccable, right? Usually around like 11 o'clock my time, there's the ICT silver bullet for the PM session. If you guys take a look, right when the sell-off happened, right, where was it? Yeah, right around 11 at 1050. So this fair value gap started to happen, started to occur. Right at 11, we kind of swept the lows here just a tad, right? But we swept underneath this previous day high. So it wasn't a perfect silver bullet, but right, we kept sweeping under this previous day high level, right? It's a new week, so we don't have any like weekly stuff to go off of, but the fact that it kept trading under this previous day level and then we had bidders really supporting price and just accumulating orders here was very, very, I guess, I don't want to say obvious because a lot of people probably didn't see this, but really good trade here. So I'll go ahead and end it there. I'll probably throw Amazon on here as well later in the week because this is, I think, going to be a really big trade. But hopefully you guys enjoyed, learned something here. Just be patient, right? And remember, always just study price action, go back and review your trades. But I'll see you guys next time.